call the order.
All right, I will call this meeting to order at 6:01 p.m. I'd like to announce that this meeting is being recorded. May I have a roll call?
Dr. Aguilar?
Here.
Dr. Freeman?
Here. They're all present. Before we begin, we would like to acknowledge the Chumash people who are the traditional custodians of this land. We pay our respects to the Chumash elders past, present, and future who call this place, Anasqueo, the land and isle this sits upon, their home. We are proud to continue the tradition of coming together and growing as a community. We thank the Chumash community for their stewardship and support, and we look forward to strengthening our ties as we continue our relationship of mutual respect and understanding. At this point, I'd like to move on to the public comment period. At this time, any member of the public may speak on matters within the subject matter jurisdiction of the parking committee that are not on the agenda. The committee will not take action on any item not on the agenda except as provided by law. Is there any public comment at this time?
No one on Zoom?
All right, so I will move right along to our discussion and action items. We have 3.1, our parking study update.
All right, well, I'll turn it over to Emily, and she's got a PowerPoint for us to go over today, and then I'll do some other debriefing afterwards.
All right, I'll go ahead and share my screen and let me know if you can see this okay.
Yes, yes.
All right, great. So
we can. Usually
yeah.
when you share these screens, they come up in some kind of weird alternate resolution, and then I have to go try to like hack into the live stream to fix it. But it actually worked today.
It's great.
It worked today? Okay, great. Glad to hear it. So yeah, this is our Isla Vista parking study update. I'm sure most of you know, but just briefly introducing, I'm Emily Quatanetz. I'm a principal at Dixon Resources Unlimited. We're the consulting team, along with Julie, Cameron, James, and Chisa. And then we've also been working very closely with the steering committee members listed here at the bottom, with the Community Services District, the university, and the county. It's definitely a joint effort, and we expect to have our next steering committee meeting sometime in the next month. Running through our project updates. So we were excited to launch our online parking survey that went live October 19th. And I checked this morning, I think we have over 800 responses now. And we have both an English and Spanish language option for that. There's been ongoing canvassing and outreach to help promote the survey and get as much feedback as we can. And we're keeping an eye on the different user groups just to see if we need to do any more targeted outreach. We expect to wrap up the survey by mid-December. We also just recently completed our latest site visit was last week on November 1st and 2nd. That included several focus group meetings. We met with business owners, students. We had a public town hall meeting as well. We also met with representatives from the Rec and Park District, as well as the county and the city of Goleta. So continuing, we'll be doing some virtual outreach as a follow-up as well. And we expect we'll come back again sometime in January or February is what we're estimating. We've been conducting monthly on-street data collection. So that began back in April. There's one weekday and one weekend day each month. And our latest round was in October. And that was actually one of the months where we did a sampling on a Tuesday. Typically we do a Thursday. And we shifted over to Tuesday to be able to do some 72-hour rule compliance sampling, which I'll talk about in a little bit here. We previously did our detailed site assessment back on August 2nd, and then we have these monthly public committee updates as well. Moving into the data collection results. So you'll recall last time we presented the findings of parking occupancy rates from over the summer between April and June being extremely impacted, actually exceeding the capacity at 104% occupancy on average. That's largely due to the fact that there is quite a bit of parking in red curbs or blocking driveways, double parking behavior. So there's definitely some extreme congestion, which on the flip side, over the summer when school was out of session, we saw it go back down to a more manageable level. there, and then comparing that to the most recent rounds of data. So you can see here on the left, we have our September average occupancy was still quite high at 94% on average, which the industry standard, you want to reach a target of no higher than 85%. So it's still well exceeding that target. There's quite a bit of congestion, especially at that 5 a.m. and 8 p.m. Kind of those overnight hours when most people are back at home. And then you also see similar results for in October over here on the right as well. So actually exceeding 100% at that 8 p.m. round, you'll notice there. We also did some sampling of just drone imagery back both over the summer in August and then just mostly recently in October. And these are just a few screen grabs. We're still digging into this in more detail, but on Del Playa, you can see, for example, on the left here, there's some cars parked off street, but not completely at capacity. Whereas on the right-hand side, especially in that upper right corner, you can see just the density of the cars really packed into that lot. Some of them hanging out over into the sidewalk, which is a really common thing we heard about from different stakeholders and just see driving around Isla Vista. Here's just a few other examples too, where you can see just the level of density that is occurring, not only on the street, like I mentioned before, but also off the street. So you can see this is just a significant congestion challenge overall. We also, as I mentioned, the 72-hour rule sampling. And so what we did was basically collected data on a Tuesday and a Saturday during both August and October. And we looked to see out of the vehicles that were observed Tuesday during all 3 data collection rounds. So if they were observed Tuesday morning, midday, and evening, and then again on the following Saturday morning on the same block face, they were marked as like a potential violator. Technically, they could have left and come back in that time frame, or maybe they parked on one end of the block and then shifted a few spaces up on that same block. And so this isn't necessarily all going to be 72-hour rule violators, but it's a good indication at the level of potential compliance. And what you can see here is in both August and October, you had right around 30% of the parking spaces on street were utilized by potential violators. And so that might seem a bit surprising, but it actually tracks closely with a lot of the feedback we've heard from different community members, knowing that they often don't use their car on a regular basis and kind of just leave it parked on the street. Some folks reported even that they're afraid to move their car because they probably won't find parking when they come back. And so we just know that not all cars are being used on a regular basis. And in some cases, that means the on-street parking is essentially being treated like a parking lot in a way. In terms of next steps, we are making good progress on our draft existing conditions and parking needs assessment reports. We'll continue to provide these regular updates and our monthly data collection. Like I mentioned, we'll have our online survey open through at least mid-December. And then with, the bulk of our initial round of outreach wrapping up this month, and then the survey wrapping up soon after, we'll turn our attention over to starting to draft the potential strategies. And one of the big opportunities we're evaluating right now is that opportunity for Isla Vista to establish a parking district. And we know the importance of coming up with a plan that really emphasizes compliance and that regular parking enforcement coverage. And so that is tied in with that. And then we expect that we'll be sharing the survey results and our draft recommendation sometime in early to mid 2024. So right after that. And with that, I will open it up for any feedback or suggestions. And then just really quick, I'll just flash the contact information here. You're welcome to reach out to us anytime at IV@Dixon Resources Unlimited. There's also the project webpage where you can stay up to date about this project. And then I included a couple QR codes here to access the online survey, and hoping that folks will help spread the word about that as well. And with that, I'll go ahead and stop the screen share and take any questions.
All right, thank you very much for that report and that update. I wanted to ask, I hope, a simple question about kind of what it means to be a parking district or to establish a parking district. We heard about this before, but I don't feel super knowledgeable on like that vocabulary and exactly what it means. I feel like it would be helpful for anyone watching and recording also.
Sure. Yeah, and so it's definitely being evaluated by the legal team right now, but it does seem like there is, based on the Isla Vista Community Services District Charter, there seems to be the ability to establish a formal parking district, and part of that would be to basically set up a parking enforcement operation would be the goal of that, and to enable being able to issue parking citations. We've done a detailed code review at this point, and we've been working with the county, a lieutenant with the county on understanding what what violation codes they currently issue within the county code. And so the intent would be to ideally replicate something similar to that within the new parking district. I don't know, Jonathan, if you had anything else to add to that.
I'll add that there isn't really any enforcement happening right now. There's some, like I'd say like a small amount, but it's not a focus. And so this would be at least a way to enforce the current rules, not necessarily new rules. And we could do it for a smaller area, like just downtown or just a 6-8 block.
Gotcha. Jay.
Yeah. So I think it's at least worth bringing up again. I know there's been some disagreement with respect to how this has been working, but the AB3, the law that we had that was set up that established us, says that we have the ability to not just establish a parking district, but that we have the ability to exercise the powers of a parking district in the same manner as one formed, past tense, pursuant to the parking district law. So I continue to believe that we should already be considered to have the ability to do all the things that a parking district does. If you were to say that you have the ability to do any kind of a medical operation, the same as anyone who had trained and received a degree from a particular location, that would not mean that you still have to apply to do that. That would mean that you already have the ability to do those things that you, and so because it says that we have the ability to exercise the powers of a parking district in the same manner as a parking district formed pursuant to the parking district law of 1951, I continue to believe that we don't need to establish one.
I think we should get you to talk with Jamie, our attorney, because this is an analysis we're basing off of from Ross had done in 2020. He gave us an analysis actually incidentally for, hey, Mike, I know you're on, but it was when we had the first MSR process starting with LAFCO. And he gave us an analysis of all our powers and how they all work and everything like that. And one of the points in that was the parking district. And the first line there, it says is the district can designate all or any portion of its area to comprise a parking district or any number of parking districts as long as they do not overlap. And then it goes into describing the powers of a parking district. But I don't disagree necessarily with you. I'm just saying that's what our legal team has given.
But we are allowed to establish. Okay.
But there is
then maybe I'm just stuck on something where I'm just continually thinking of like.
It's not an entity. It's like a designation of an area.
Great. Okay.
Yeah, that's what it's. But we will need to do something called creating a parking place commission. That's one of the points in this memo, and the commission would have 3 members, and the general manager appoints them, confirmed by the board of directors. They have 3-year terms. You know, I can resend you this memo, but Ross had written it 3 years ago now. But there would be a board that would control, be the oversight board. Maybe it could be our directors who are the 3, but I don't think that's clear here. But it would be a commission of the
Okay,
district.
apparently I misunderstood, because I thought, because like there was another part of that thing that says the formation of a parking district may be proposed by petition signed by the owners of real property, and then we're gonna like do this kind of an assessment and all of those things, and I was just hoping that we don't have to do all of that because we already have the ability to exercise the powers of something that had already been formed.
Yeah, I think we
So-
still need to go through a public process to establish like, oh, if we're gonna do a parking district for downtown IV, I think we'll still have to do a process, but it's not a vetoable process. Like, it's just something, you have to go through the motions of doing it, just meet requirements.
Interesting, okay.
So it sounds like by that, like kind of understanding parking district in this sense means like a specific area of land that we are enforcing parking rules now, or that there already should be enforcement, but we're now designating this area specifically.
Yeah, so that's why we could, if we wanted to start with just the 6-8 block or just the downtown, which are the two areas we've heard a lot about as needing more enforcement.
Got it. All right, well, I don't think I have any further questions right now. I'll go to the public. Is there any public comment or questions on the information we received today?
You can just raise your hand on Zoom, and we do have some members of the public today.
What was the section that you were quoting? You know?
Like in this memo,
No, like, is it like a citation, like which section, which code section?
just in the memo I sent you, you can, and I put it as an attachment now to this meeting, you can just find parking district powers, and then it just starts citing a lot of code starting from there. There's a lot being cited.
I see it's
Okay.
attached to it.
Yeah, because I was just then also looking in, and so it's got like the construction of a parking district, it's got here, unless the formation of parking district, section 35-107, any portion of a city may be formed into a parking district for the purposes set forth on this part, but I don't think that was the wording.
That is the one.
Well, that is the
That
wording
is the
you
one.
used.
35.
I think we already are a parking district. I maintain that we already have the ability to do things as a parking district.
Yeah.
And I'm not certain,
I think, yeah, well, we should just
maybe that
talk-
wasn't Dawson's intent. Maybe for all, but I thought that was.
Well, let's talk with Jamie. I mean, this is a opinion from 3 years ago when we hadn't been doing this process yet, so I think we can look at it again. But I know that she's working hard on that and on the analysis for the solar parking lot as well.
Got it. All right, well, so there's no public comment right now?
Doesn't look like it.
All right, well, is there any board comment or further question? I don't have any myself. Brief comment I'll share is that I was very, very impressed by the effort that Dixon put forth last week during the town hall and the visit to our community. I saw the way our consultant, Ms. Dixon, handled those questions, and I was very impressed in her interactions with the community and creating an engaging conversation. I'm really pleased. So that's the main commentary I have that's new. Of course, I'm glad that we have such well created data, well observed data, especially these drone shots. It's like Delphi residents are doing the best they can. And I'm pleased with that, but it makes me think about other issues that maybe just aren't even in our control right now, just density and the wideness of that street and how hard it is. I was just biking on my way here from 6-7, and even with no illegal parking on certain parts of the street, the narrowness is a burden for a cyclist and two vehicles to be moving, even if the two vehicles are going the same direction. So I think that there's some safety issues that we'll have to consider in the future. But having this drone imagery makes it real easy to see that distance, not just the density on the road with the graph. Like, that's important, but I like this real-time photograph a lot. So thank you.
Yeah, I'll say that once soon we'll have full count of the private spaces, the ones we can see through drone, at least like my apartment, you couldn't see them, that's what we have, but we'll have the most accurate that we could from those drone pictures. And one of the leading ideas in the mobility plan study, when we had our town hall in May, we had some specific ideas for the community to grapple with, and one of them was making DP and Salvador one way in opposite directions, putting a bike lane there, and you could then make parking also easier possibly that way too. So it would be a big project to redesign the street. And one of the things that came up, I mean, it was one of the things discussed in the meeting that Dixon team had with the county, was the county's ATP project and like this bigger sidewalk they want to put on DP. And just maybe the challenges doing that very expensive project might bring, where could we use the money in different ways to make the street safer? So, because people might just park on the sidewalk if you make a bigger sidewalk.
Yeah, based
It's
on
a new parking lot.
what we
essentially.
observe now, yeah, that's just more parking real estate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
All right, well, yeah, that concludes my commentary for now. I'm sure we'll all have very lively conversations in the coming months. But I do look forward to seeing some of those draft recommendations from our consultants.
yeah, we have a lot of we just talked this morning that we have a lot of Zoom interviews and focus group. Not a lot. We did a lot already, but there's, as we keep going, more people we need to talk with, come up. And so we have a lot of outreach to finish like through January. And then that's when around, maybe a little after that, we'll have recommendation drafts. So things are moving really well.
Exciting, exciting. All right, well, I'll say thank you again. I'll conclude our discussion action items. I'll move to our fourth section, the next meeting date and future agenda items. Is there any future agenda items that my colleague would like to see brought forward?
Nope.
All right, neither do I. I don't have any extra things I want to bring forward. So the next meeting of the parking committee will be December 5th on Zoom and at this office, 970 Embarcadero Del Mar, Isla, California at 6 p.m. And with that, I will adjourn this meeting. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you, Leslie. I see you're on.